Hey everyone, welcome back to K-Korner, the channel where we dive into the wild world of entitled people and their unbelievable stories. Hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's go. I'm not sure if this counts as malicious compliance, but I'll post here for now. At my previous job, I worked as a peer trainer. Essentially, I was required to do my assigned job to its full capacity while also teaching everything to the newbies straight off the street. Not only did I agree to do this, but I had also volunteered for it. So this isn't a story about overwork. I worked in a large room with 5 stations of machines lined up in a row from one wall to the other. All stations did the exact same thing, just with their own bugs and hiccups. One wall wasn't even a wall, but a giant window that looked into the break room. I have major anxiety about being snuck up on or watched without my knowing, enough to cause sudden anxiety attacks that can last for hours or until I can remove myself from the room, building, and sleep it off. I hate it. It's super inconvenient. Thankfully, this isn't an issue for the most part, because, since I know the triggers, I can avoid them or set up precautions. Like sitting with my back to a wall. My coworkers are usually understanding and don't sneak up on me. This window also proves to be a distraction for the trainees because they will try to look for and interact with their friends in the break room. I get that the job I was training them for was boring, 12 hours long, and on the night shift, but we were working on large machines that needed to be watched at all times in case they jammed or broke, which was often. Thankfully, my station was the third one away from the window, so I could easily keep everything maintained. The problem was, as it always seems to be in these stories, when a new supervisor moved to our area of the building. He was put in charge of Station 1 and Station 2. I was assigned to Station 3. Technically speaking, Station 1 was supposed to be the training station. I had previously made a verbal agreement with his predecessor and the training team that I could stay on Station 3 because of the previous points. Without asking or even giving me a heads up, I came back to work from a vacation day to find that I had already been reassigned to Section 1, despite the protests of my coworkers in my absence. Not to be that person, but there was a reason the training team was so willing to bend the rules for me. I was really good at my job. I was the go-to person to ask when something broke and even maintenance couldn't fix it. I've been told by my own leads that they refuse to let me transfer off their team without my insistence. So, a sudden and unprompted transfer like this was commonly considered extremely rude, and was usually used as a punishment. I figured that, as I had never met this new supervisor before, I would just go talk to him, and strike up the same deal as I had with all his predecessors for 4 years. I even had the lead for Station 1 come with me to confirm my case, and act as a witness. She knew me well as an operator because I'd come over to help her fix her machines all the time. I quickly realized that he was not going to budge on the transfer. So I told him calmly that I was ready to quit being a trainer that day, and to have the extra pay cut off immediately. It's not like I was going to lose my job, and the trainer pay was less than $1 more an hour. I was doing this because I wanted to, not because I needed it. He was shocked. We eventually agreed that I'd finish training my current trainee in my area while he looked for someone else, and until my request to quit training made its way to payroll. Cool. Apparently not cool. He came back 3 days later, claiming that Human Resources said I had no choice. This bothered me for a few reasons. First, he did not call me into a meeting for this. Despite my many warnings to him about my anxiety triggers, he snuck up behind me with a group of supervisors to deliver the order. Second, none of the supervisors with him were actually ones in charge of me in any capacity. My lead, direct supervisor, or any of the training team that I was under were not there. I want to make this clear. This man was not my boss in any way. He was assigned to the training section, yes, but had no authority over the trainers. So if a trainer was operating on a different section, he had no authority. The third thing that bothered me was that instead of looking for a new person like he promised, he took the time to find a way to force me to do what he wanted. As soon as he and his group appeared out of nowhere, to quite literally surround me and block me in, I could already feel that stupid fight or flight response kick in. I could barely keep my brain together enough to actually register what they were telling me. I could only agree in hopes that it would get them to leave sooner, hoping that I might be able to calm myself down and get in control again. I really hate causing a scene. When they left, I went to break before I moved to Section 1. Finally, this is where the malicious compliance comes in. Despite my best efforts, I could not calm myself over break. So when I went back and moved to sit beside the giant window, the added anxiety of that hit me pretty hard, just like I had warned. So I decided that since this came with a full and repeated warning from my end, I wasn't going to do anything to mask the anxiety attack this time. I don't have them often, and usually do my best to minimize the burden they cause to the people around me. This results in a few silent tears, lots of fidgeting, and a bit of pacing. This time, however, I just let it happen. We're talking rapid frantic pacing, red-faced and tears streaming down my cheeks, strained breathing and digging my nails into my arms and hands. My poor trainee had no idea what was going on, and I was unable to teach her anything because I go non-verbal when my anxiety acts up, which means I'm completely useless as a trainer. When my coworker got back from his break, a prior trainee of mine and an old sweetheart, he covered for me so I could go home. After a few calls and texts to my leads and coworkers, I used up some paid time off and didn't come back in until I was no longer officially a trainer and could transfer back to my area. That supervisor was fired a few weeks later due to multiple complaints on top of being caught in the act of being intimate with a coworker inside the building. She got fired too, much to the joy of everyone else. She was a troublesome person and a suck-up, and yelled at two of my very young and nervous trainees for following orders she didn't understand. Honestly, they're a match made in unpleasantness, and I hope they ended up happily together so no one else would have to suffer their attention. Some background. My mom has 3 sisters. Let's call them Tuesday T, Hippie H, and Mask M. Code names because I now dislike all 3 of them. My mom will be called Crystal C. We also have one grandma who poured most of her time and energy into T, H, and M. They were her darling little girls. C was beloved by my grandpa and spent most of her time with him. My grandma never hid her disdain for my mother, often throwing things at her or hitting her for something as simple as crying when an animal died or when she got an injury. She also emotionally and psychologically tortured my grandpa. How? Well, in high school, my grandma had a boyfriend. Let's call him Ted. Ted eventually broke up with her and moved on, but she never forgot about him, often comparing my grandpa to him and claiming that Ted drives a Porsche or Ferrari or some other sports car. The funny thing is, he had been no contact with her since he dumped her. So this was all stuff made up in her mind. This is to give you an idea of what I've been dealing with. On to the main point. My grandma has Alzheimer's disease or dementia. I'm not sure which as I'm uninformed. She has seriously deteriorated in the past 3 days, to the point that she can't remember events that happened 1 day ago, or gets events confused. I would be fine with her if it were just that. Remember the throwing stuff and hitting my mom? Yeah, she's continued to do that. And my mom has only just started to process that that was abuse, and it's gotten worse as she's suddenly deteriorated. Today, she threw a nightgown at me when I called out her behavior. Her aide came by at about 9 a.m., and at 9:15 a.m. I was called upstairs, and the aide told me that my grandma wanted her to go home. I hadn't said anything, just gave my grandma a look, and she scolded me with, "Don't you start with me." Internally I said, "Oh, is this what we're doing today? Fine, play ball, hag." And I called out her behavior over the past few months that she's been living here. She hasn't taken a shower once, and she's horribly incontinent. It was in the middle of the argument that she threw her nightgown at me. As tempted as I was to throw it back at her, I had the sense to tell myself, "Hey, no, don't do that," and tossed it onto a chair. Another thing to note, my grandma is afraid of me. I'm not sure why, as I've never been physically violent with her or threatened her. She has expressed a desire for my death, by the way. So all I can figure is that she's scared of me because I confront her nonsense, Eventually, I texted my aunts. The texts are as follows, with Z being me. Z. Update on Grandma. She has rapidly deteriorated mentally in the last week or 3 days. Because of this, it is unsafe for my mom and me to assist in moving her. She is becoming violent and throwing things. She threw a jar of facial cream at my mother and threw her nightgown at me this morning. Z. Obviously I'm not hurt, but I'm scared that she's becoming comfortable enough to take such actions. M. She has always had periods of becoming angry. Sorry that you are seeing it for the first time. What has changed in her routine this week? Is she having visits from aide's name or getting out? Z. This isn't my first time seeing it. This is the first time she's thrown something at me. Something my mom doesn't even do. Nothing has changed at all. Aide's name came by, is still here, and was told to go home by Grandma. She never goes out because she adamantly denies being able to, just like she denies being able to shower, and has decided she's unable to walk down the hall anymore. Z. I'm upset because she's becoming physically violent and it's not okay. M. You're right, it's not okay, and I can understand that it's upsetting. Some days are better than others for all of us, and as we age, there is less resilience. When you add in some mental decline and inability to talk about how you are feeling, loneliness, and all the changes she has gone through, there might be days like this. It's not easy to put yourself in her shoes because you have many life experiences ahead of you, so it can be more challenging to problem solve in the moment. One day at a time. She is a human that is most likely really hurting. Internally, I am screaming, I never thought I'd live through high school. I am human and I'm also hurting. Go away. I am a 30-year-old man currently residing with my mother, 53, and her husband, around 50, in a 2-bedroom townhouse. For the past 3.5 years, my mother hasn't been employed while her husband works full-time on a seasonal basis. However, his wages are reduced due to his employer paying lawyer fees to keep him out of jail a few years ago. As for me, I work tirelessly, clocking in full-time hours and even overtime, totaling around 60 hours a week at a federal company. I secured this job back in 2019. In 2016, I moved into the townhouse with my mother. At that time, I was working part-time but managed to land a full-time position that paid well, offering $16 an hour plus overtime, which was pretty good for a 23-year-old. I shouldered half of the rent, the entire light bill, which was over $400 due to outdated infrastructure in Connecticut, as well as covering the costs of food, my mother's cell phone bill, fuel for her car, and even buying her cigarettes. Since I didn't own a car back then, she would often drive me to the bus stop, and I would express my appreciation by giving her money for gas and cigarettes. However, my job was contractual, and I wasn't converted to a permanent employee. Consequently, I had to find a new job, which came with a slight pay cut. Moreover, full-time employment with this new company meant working 33 hours a week, but I could work from home. By 2017, my mother had managed to pay off most of her car and was in a stable financial situation. Unfortunately, I began to struggle with paying the full light bill and half of the rent due to my reduced income. Despite showing her my bank account to prove that I couldn't afford it, she made it into a big issue, insinuating that I willingly chose not to contribute. Fast forward to late 2018 when my mother started dating her now husband. I was genuinely happy to see her building a life for herself. Around the same time, I landed a well-paying full-time job, and things were looking up. Then my mother decided she wanted to move in with her boyfriend, leaving me in the townhouse as a gift along with the furniture, provided I could manage all the bills independently. I agreed to the arrangement, although it should be noted that this gift came after she took the title to my car from my room and sold it to a family member without my knowledge, pocketing the money. In August 2019, I was hired by the post office, a job that paid exceptionally well and offered more hours than I knew what to do with. Finally, I was able to live on my own and enjoy my independence. But then, in March 2020, I received a call informing me that my mother had quit her job, citing concerns about commuting. she had moved to a town 2 over, and claiming that her workplace was allowing COVID-19 patients to come in. As a result, she decided to become a stay-at-home wife in the midst of the pandemic. I gave her $200 as a birthday gift, and she managed to turn that into yet another monetary request, which, unfortunately, I foolishly complied with. To make matters worse, her clueless husband reassures her that he can handle the bills while she takes a break because she supposedly deserves it. However, the reality is that he can't afford anything. It's like sweeping dirt under the rug, except the dirt in this case is bills that keep piling up. And guess who they call when shut-off notices and year-old overdue rent come knocking? You guessed it, they call me. Since my mother was listed on the original lease, and we never informed the landlord about her moving out, there wasn't much I could do. The initial plan was for them to move in with the intention of saving money to buy their own home, leaving me with my own space again. But here's the kicker. Her husband's credit score is in the 400s, and my mother, who isn't working, couldn't even apply for a loan. So their brilliant solution became, I'll collect unemployment and save for a house. My mother managed to finagle unemployment benefits, while her husband hopped from one job to another a total of 5 times since then. Meanwhile, I've been shouldering the majority of the expenses, like a 70-30th split, because apparently they needed to save, and according to them, I've been covering it myself anyway. Every time I mention the idea of moving out or discuss apartment hunting going well, I get threatened with eviction, or my mother even threatens to call the police. She goes as far as reaching out to our family, spreading false stories about me sabotaging things. She plays the victim card, saying things like, I sacrificed my life for you kids, and you don't appreciate anything. It's almost like a slogan in this house. What's even more absurd is that she has managed to convince our family that she has been working for the past 4 years. She bought a whole computer and places it on the kitchen table to create the illusion that she works from home whenever someone comes over. This level of deception is mind-boggling, and her husband just blindly supports it like a complete fool. I desperately need to escape this situation, but I can't seem to save enough for rent and a deposit while also juggling the responsibility of paying $1,250 for rent and utilities, 70/30th split, along with covering all my own expenses like food, personal care products, car insurance, cell phone bill, gas, and unexpected costs. Just had to replace my alternator 2 weeks ago. In central Connecticut, the average cost for rent and a deposit is around $3,000 or more. All the while, my mother sits comfortably at home, bad-mouthing me to her husband and anyone who will listen. And let me tell you, she doesn't hesitate to speak poorly of those people as well, including her broke husband, as she likes to put it. I don't want to harbor resentment towards my mother, but the feeling of being taken advantage of has consumed my thoughts for far too long. Lately, I can't even exchange pleasantries with her without feeling bothered. Am I being too harsh in my judgment, or is this the epitome of entitled mother nonsense? Enjoying the stories yet? If you do, please subscribe, like, and comment. I was browsing through the aisles of the local grocery store when I saw her, Karen. She was standing in front of me in the checkout line, huffing and puffing as if she was the only one in a rush. I could see her fiddling with her purse, probably looking for her wallet, while the cashier patiently waited for her to sort things out. "Excuse me," I said gently, tapping her on the shoulder. "I think you need to sort out your card before you get to the front of the line." Karen turned around, and her eyes bore into me like lasers. "What do you mean? I know what I'm doing, thank you very much. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. It's just that I've seen people get stuck in line before, and it can hold up the queue for everyone else." Karen scoffed and turned back around, her body language screaming her displeasure. I sighed and rolled my eyes, mentally preparing myself for a long wait. The line moved slowly, but Karen finally made it to the front. She handed her card over to the cashier, who swiped it and waited for it to process, and waited, and waited. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the cashier said finally, handing the card back to Karen. "It's been declined." "What do you mean declined?" Karen demanded, her voice rising. "There's plenty of money in there." I'm sorry, ma'am, but it's saying it's declined. Karen started to get angry. This is ridiculous, try it again. I can try it again, ma'am, the cashier said patiently. But I don't think it will work. Karen shoved the cashier out of the way and grabbed her card back. I'll do it myself, storming towards the self-checkout machines. I shook my head in disbelief as I paid for my own items and left the store. People like Karen never cease to amaze me. As I walked towards my car, I saw Karen again. She was still at the self-checkout machines, her card still not working. She was yelling and swearing at the machine, attracting the attention of other customers. "Excuse me, is everything okay?" "Mind your own business," Karen snapped, turning to face me, "and stay out of my way." "I'm just trying to help," I said, holding my hands up in a placating gesture. "Maybe there's something wrong with the machine. Have you tried using a different card or paying with cash?" Karen glared at me, her eyes narrowing. "Who do you think you are, telling me what to do? I don't need your help. Now leave me alone." I took a step back, not wanting to provoke her any further. But Karen wasn't done yet. She shoved me hard, causing me to stumble backwards. "Get out of my way, you stupid little twerp." That was it. I'd had enough. I wasn't going to stand there and let her treat me like that. "Excuse me, miss," I said, speaking in a calm, even tone. "You can't just shove people like that. I'm going to have to ask you to calm down and leave the store." Karen was incensed. She started to yell and scream, attracting the attention of the other customers. She even tried to hit me, but I was able to dodge her blows. That was when the security guard arrived. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, looking between Karen and me. Karen immediately switched gears, adopting a pitiful tone. "Oh, thank goodness you're here," she said, clutching her purse. "This man has been harassing me and trying to steal my money." I rolled my eyes. "That's not true," I said firmly. "She's the one who shoved me. I was just trying to help her with her card." The security guard nodded, looking between us. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave, ma'am," he said, turning to Karen. "And sir, I'll need to see your ID." I complied, pulling out my wallet and handing over my driver's license. Karen was still protesting, but the security guard wasn't having it. He escorted her out of the store, muttering something about entitled people under his breath. As for me, I was just glad that the whole thing was over. I got back into my car and drove home. Background: I, 24F, was diagnosed with anxiety, depression, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder when I was 7. My mom, 46F, never understood me and has admitted this in therapy sessions. So growing up was hard, to say the least. To play devil's advocate, she took me to therapists and put me on medication as early as middle school. She even claimed to ask my aunt on my biological father's side for advice, since everyone on his side has some mental health issues. I have since moved out of my mom's house and now live with my fiancé. I have limited contact with everyone from my previous life, and I've been happy. Being with my fiancé, I have received the support I needed. I've started taking medication and going to therapy weekly. I still have bad days, but I'm finally happy. The world looks brighter. I can smell again, cooking, nature, taste better, and see the details in everything, including myself. I was so far gone and no one noticed. No one helped. Experience with a family member. A much older male family member took advantage of our relationship when I was in middle school. I reported it to my school and they spoke to my mom. She pulled my older brother out of school and took me home for the day. They, my mom, stepdad, and Aunt A, kept asking me to repeat myself. I remember seeing my mom go to the bathroom, presumably to cry. I remember her saying later that same day, "She's not changing her story." What are we going to do? Fast forward. And he's still in my whole family's life. He's at birthday parties, including kids, sleepovers, etc. I finally told Aunt B, with whom I spent a lot of time to get away from home, and I felt safe, but he still goes to her house and parties. I don't think she believed me. In the years after I reported it, he has done things that have triggered me, like grabbing my hand when I passed him a fork, even though there was plenty of room not to, touching my lower back or arm when walking by, and before I had the courage to make it stop, even giving me hugs. Aunt B would text me that he was coming so I could hide in my room. If he randomly showed up, I would literally run to my room. I hate running, and lock it. His wife would try knocking on my door, but I'd pretend I didn't hear. It broke my heart because I basically lived at their house before and during when it happened. My mom would even unlock the door and bring me chores even if I was crying. She even claims I said I made it up. I have no memory of this. Even if I did say it, I believe it would have been said out of fear. Also, I have said it did happen more than the one time I supposedly said I didn't. Family dynamics and neglect. When she met her now husband and had my sister, it felt like she abandoned my older brother and me. They would go on family vacations, outings, and events without us. There were some we went to, but not all of them. At my mom's aunt's wedding, my brother and I weren't invited, but my sister was the flower girl, and the parents went. When they got married, we and her mom weren't at the courthouse. They got married while we were at the restaurant for the reception. Her cousin, who lived 3 to 4 hours away at the time, was there, and she picked me up from school on the way to our house to get ready. They put pictures of my mom, stepdad, and sister as lock screens and profile pictures, so I couldn't forget. When I got a girlfriend in middle school, she found out the same day from a faculty member calling her during my baseball game. She went to the car in the middle of the game, worrying me. On the way home, she asked if I had a boyfriend, and I said no. Then she asked if I had a girlfriend, and I just started crying. She kept making comments that caused me to cry harder, like, "What do you like about her?" My sister started chanting because she was too young to understand. She made me break up with her. I never had a girlfriend again despite my many crushes. I was so sheltered. I couldn't go anywhere, and had a curfew of 10 no matter what. My friend took me out for my birthday, and I got home a little late and got grounded for a few weeks. Lack of support and constant criticism. She hates everything I like, and growing up, she wasn't shy about expressing her disdain. For example, she would say, "Take that nonsense off the TV," or "EU" to my favorite colors, TV shows, and music. Even the guys I said I liked were criticized. As a result, I became a people pleaser. Although I wasn't fat initially, she kept telling me I was, making me join grown adults in fitness classes, paying hundreds for diets and cleanses, gifting me fitness classes, and paying for laser hair removal for my facial hair. She also told me what I was wearing didn't look good on me and praised me when I lost weight. She treated my brother the same way. He only has a small stomach and skinny arms and legs. But she even slaps his stomach. My grandma and great-grandma are the same way. My great-grandma even told me, "I know you don't live here, but you can eat something. You don't have to starve yourself to lose weight." I just wasn't hungry, and it's not my fridge to help myself. My mom's aunt and uncle even said to me and my thin cousin that I would be beautiful if I were skinny like her. Even my cousin was uncomfortable. Whenever I would bring my mom to therapy with me or express how I felt, she wouldn't speak to me for about 2 weeks. If she did, it wasn't nice. When she found out I was self-harming, she said, "Do you want people to think you are crazy and lock you up? Because that's what's going to happen if you keep doing that." Conclusion. There's more, but I'll end it here. The main reason I would cut off everyone is because they gossip and would not be able to keep my life secret. But I also have more situations with them. I want to protect my future kids from all the judgment. Thank you for reading. P.S. I love your show. It's helped me through a lot of tough times. Edit. I have screenshots if wanted. I did an update, but it didn't go through. So I rewrote it, hoping I didn't leave anything out. Also, thank you for all of the support and permission. Still, barely any contact. My mom messaged me that she will be cutting a cake for my stepdad in a few days. I told her I wasn't going to be in the state and therefore couldn't make it. She was surprised, but I told her that since my stepdad works in another state and only sometimes comes back on the weekend, I assumed he couldn't, when I never heard anything. My mom called me yesterday during dinner. She started asking questions about where I was going and what I was doing. She's good at interrogating, but I've been training my whole life for her questions. I gave short answers like, "This state, only for the day," and "Yes, my fiancé is going." She doesn't ask her questions like she just wants to hear about it, but with entitlement to know. After a while, my fiancé says hi, and she says the same. She asked to be put on speaker, so I did. They usually just do small talk for 1 to 2 minutes. But this time she said, "Don't get lost. Remember to come around," or something along those lines. We looked at each other confused, and I took the phone off speaker. After I managed to get off the phone, I apologized to him and explained I had no idea she would do that. She texted me that she loved me, which confused me because she isn't the type to say it, not even at the end of a call. I already wanted to cry but didn't want to ruin dinner, my overthinking. When I was alone, I did start to cry, but I pushed through and texted her that it's not my fiancé's fault. I have been busy with work, home, dogs, and my mental health. She didn't know. I have just been keeping my distance while working through all of this. My fiancé helps me every day, and she should be thanked, not guilted. I made sure to say it wasn't out of disrespect or with attitude, but wanted to say something since she brought it up instead of nothing. She said, "I'm sorry you feel that way," and she didn't blame him. She just misses me, but no problem. We're still in her prayers, and sorry for invading my space. I felt horrible because I am a people pleaser. I just texted back that I know and I'm sorry if it came out the wrong way, and that I understand that she does, and repeated that I just wanted to explain why I haven't been around. She said, "Understood. I'll always be here. Love you." I didn't respond. I texted my sister, who still lives there, that I'm sorry if I made things hard on her, and that there was a misunderstanding, but to be nice for at least 2 days. I still feel horrible and like a jerk. I cried the whole time, and until I fell asleep in my fiancé's arms. Am I wrong for this? A bit of backstory. Chad, a 45-year-old top manager at the company where I work, has always been delusional. He thinks very highly of himself, places others beneath him, and has always had a tendency to obsessively adopt various methods of self-improvement, from extreme dieting and consuming supplements to reading self-help books about successful success. You know the ones I'm talking about. In the past year or so, his new obsession has been to become a popular social media influencer. His idea of how to achieve that was to post every single thing about his life, including his divorce, relationship problems with his ex-wife, new dates he's been on, photos of his child and all the activities they do together, and almost daily videos with morning greetings to his dozen subscribers. But the centerpiece of his influencer career is his attempt to be some kind of relationship psychology expert. He organizes online lectures and pesters everyone to join and listen to his endless wisdom. I thought he couldn't get more delusional. But then I saw his latest post and realized how wrong I was. A bit more context to understand the comments Chad's been getting to his post. This is happening right now in Ukraine, a country at war. Moreover, he posted this the day after Russia's most recent mass bombing, where about 40 civilians were killed, and one of the targets was a children's hospital. Now to Chad's post itself, and the comments he got. "Dear friends, I invite you to take part in a new interesting project. As a child, I had a dream. To have a large, beautiful country house with a magnificent terrace, so that I could come there with my family, relax and enjoy the beautiful scenery, swim in the river, go kayaking, watch movies in an open-air cinema under the starry sky. And now there is a chance to make my dream come true. I've already got a beautiful 2-story country house near a river, and everything there is gorgeous. A beautiful house and yard, close location to the water, nature, but one essential detail is missing. That very summer terrace. I plan to build it together with my beloved girlfriend, but I would like to do this by attracting external funding. To everyone who has a desire to participate in this project and help in the realization of this magnificent dream, we offer the following. I will open an online jar for donations. See details below. You can donate any amount, but provided that the amount is more than $300, we promise you a wonderful weekend in this country house on a magnificent terrace with a hookah, barbecue, wine, open-air cinema, interesting long conversations, swimming and kayaking along the river. Everyone who is interested and responds to this idea, please take part. Let's make the dream come true. Outgoing Male Summer Terrace join the raising of funds. Goal: $20,000. Note, the amounts of money have been converted not directly according to the exchange rate, but more based on Ukraine-USA median wages update. In the comments, people recommend me to either work harder or raise money for the purchase of military drones. But I am inclined to think that we live here and now and want to create a certain value. That's all. Comments: Chad's co-worker from an office in another country. Chad, I am sure that you, as the top manager of the automation department of the company, are able to single-handedly cover the costs of building a summer terrace. If not, I invite you to travel to the Middle East to work in 50 degrees Celsius heat for 15 hours a day, without days off for 7 consecutive weeks. A second wind will definitely open. Chad. The point is to attract people to a creative project, but working more and harder is a great idea, Captain Obvious. Chad's friend. Maybe raising funds for military drones is more important right now. Who knows what might happen? Chad. I'm still for the terrace, although I understand that this raising of funds won't be as popular as the one for the drones. Chad's friend. After the war, we will definitely build terraces, but now we should help the military, displaced persons, and those in need. I'm for the drones. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating stories. Share your own experiences and opinions in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay tuned for more epic tales.